In the first scene, we meet May, who's in her 70s. May's husband passed away several years ago and she now lives on her own. Recently, she suffered a significant and unexpected life event in the form of a stroke. Here she's met by Ellen, an occupational therapist, and together they explore what the impact of this change has meant on May's life.
I've made some tea.
Lovely, I'm parched. Shall I pour?
No, you're the guest. You just sit there. How do you like it?
Just as it comes, black, thank you.
Oh.
So how are you feeling, May? You've been back from the hospital a couple of weeks now.
Oh, not too bad, thanks. You said on the phone you were,
I'm an occupational therapist.
Right.
I will be taking some notes while we talk, just so I can remember what we're chatting about. Is that okay?
Yes.
So I'm here to see how you're getting on after coming out of hospital and whether there's anything we can do to help.
Oh, it's good to be home.
Yes, it's always nice to be amongst your familiar things, isn't it?
Yes.
So how are you feeling, May?
Well, a little bit shakier than before. And I'm having to do things a lot more slowly than I'd like.
Well, that's not surprising. You've been through quite an ordeal.
Yes. It was a bit of a shock. Well, 1 minute in the hospital, everybody rushing about, doctors telling you this and that. Well, they were all lovely, but it's a lot to take in. And then suddenly I'm back here.
On your own, you mean?
Yes, it's daft, isn't it?
No, not at all.
I just feel a bit on edge. I'm laughing about things 1 minute and then I'm crying the next.
Well, it's a lot for anyone to have to go through. You need to allow yourself time to deal with the way that you're feeling.
Yes, of course.
You're like me, you've got photographs everywhere. That's a lovely wedding picture.
Oh, that's my son, Robert.
Oh, does he live nearby?
We're not far, 10 minutes drive.
And do you see much of him?
Well, he pops in now and then. He's very busy.
Is he able to find time to help you with day-to-day things?
Like what?
Shopping, that sort of stuff.
Oh, Malcolm takes me shopping once a week.
Is that your other son?
Oh, no, that's my friend's son. I've known him since he was a baby.
And he takes you shopping?
Yes, he's a nice boy.
The idea about being attentive is to say what is important to this particular person. So you need to look at that person as an individual, but as an individual in a context of other relationships. You need to be aware of things in their environment that will tell you something about what is important to them. And those are things that you can introduce. I can see you've got lots of flowers around. Is gardening important to you? And those are ways in which you can actually learn about the person.
Are you able to call Robert if you need things?
I don't like asking him. He comes when he can.
But Malcolm takes you shopping?
Shopping, and sometimes after we go for tea in town.
Oh, that's a nice way to finish off a trip.
What is?
Having tea in town is a nice way to finish off a trip.
Oh, yes. I look forward to it. I like to have a bit of a window shop too.
Me too. I can spend hours looking at clothes.
Oh, no, it's more like antique shops, really. I used to collect a little when I was younger.
Well, that all sounds like fun.
Yes. He's very good, is Malcolm. But I try not to rely on him. He has a family.
And what's your street like? Do you know many people?
Oh, it's changed a lot over the years. There's a lot more younger families live around here now.
Oh, yes, I noticed a park across the road.
Oh, it's a nice park. It was nice seeing the kids playing there when I went to feed the ducks.
Do you not do that anymore?
No, not since the stroke.
It's such a sort of cliche to say listening's important, but to really hear what they're saying and trying to understand and interested and care about what they're saying is really, really important. And it's almost more important than being able to help them resolve their particular issue, because they will feel that they are still in the landscape of other people. They're not sort of out there on their own with a problem that isolates them, that there is somewhere to share that and that they are being accompanied with what's happening to them.
Marge still lives around the corner.
Is she a friend?
Well, we're friendly. She invited me to her quilting group.
Oh, I was wondering if this was homemade. It's very detailed.
Oh, years ago, yes.
Do you still sew?
Well, a bit. I'm not as nimble as I was, but it's nice to have something to do with your hands.
So did you take Marge up on her offer?
No. I would, but she walks to and fro. I just can't manage it. I'm just so frustratingly slow now.
It can be very frustrating. I think it's great that you've continued to sew. Would it be possible to ask Robert or Malcolm for a lift? No. Does that worry you, May, asking too much from people?
I'm just not used to people doing things for me. Since my husband passed away, I've got by. I've always been very active, really. I like doing things for everyone else.
Life's not just about getting by, though, is it, May? It's about enjoying the day-to-day things. And look, Malcolm likes helping you out with the shopping. Other people might like to help you with other stuff. People like to help out, just like you do. They just need to be asked sometimes.
Yes, I suppose so.
In some cases, well-being is associated with people's capacity to be independent. So older people internalise this sense that it's a good thing to be independent. And this is actually quite problematic, and this is one of the messages that we really want to try and get over, that none of us is really independent. We all need relationships with other people to be well throughout our lives. So the question is, what is the nature of those relationships? And how can people receive help, be cared for, in a way that enables them to feel valued rather than of less value because they need help?
What else have you found difficult since the stroke?
Just things that you take for granted. I mean, like being able to walk into town. I used to go to a coffee morning too.
Oh, really? Where was that?
At the community centre. I used to take a cake. Oh, they don't expect it. But we'd have coffee and cake, and then I'd go into the library next door. I'd like to get back into that routine.
So really, one of the main issues seems to be transportation, because there's the quilting group, there's the coffee morning, there's the library, all things that you would like to continue with if only you didn't have to walk there and back.
Well, maybe I could make inquiries about a lift to the community centre. But the other things, no, Malcolm does enough.
All right. And how are you managing around the house?
I'm all right.
And what about the normal day-to-day things like bathing or cooking?
Well, the shower is easier, so I use the shower.
And do you cook?
Well, basic things like boiled eggs, soup. I don't get that hungry.
Okay.
Your appetite goes.
After the hospital or just in general?
Oh, as you get older.
Right. But you are eating?
Oh, yes.
Do you have visitors?
My best friend, Claire, lives in Leeds. Oh. We speak to each other now and then on the phone.
A bit far for a visit, though, isn't it?
Friendship relationships are obviously very important, but you can't just switch them on. People are encouraged to get involved in new activities in order to make new friends, to relieve their isolation. But one of the characteristics of friendships is that you share a history. That what you do with your friends is talk about things that you used to do, that you have done. And that's difficult to achieve with people who you make friends with in old age. And that's perhaps why the diverse sorts of relationships that people can have with strangers, with neighbours, as well as with people who provide services to them, become so important.
I just miss the whole popping in thing, you know.
Popping in?
Well, somebody just popping in for a cuppa and a gossip.
Is Robert able to stay for a cuppa when he comes over?
Oh, sometimes, yes.
And is that nice? Do you have a chance for a good catch-up?
Well, he tells me about his work. He works very hard. It's so difficult nowadays. Everybody's so busy. His dad was great with him. Well, we sit and we have a talk and a cup of tea, and then he washes up for me afterwards.
And how are you finding the housework? Are you coping?
Well, no. I just find it exhausting, to be honest.
How would you feel if someone came over a few hours a week just to help out?
Like who?
Well, a volunteer or maybe a carer if you need more structured help.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, you could meet them first, see if you get along.
Well, I suppose... well, it would be nice.
Would you like me to look into that for you?
Well, if it's no trouble.
No, it's no trouble at all, of course not. I tell you what, why don't I go away with what we've discussed today and speak to some of the charity organisations, and maybe they could pop in to see you.
Oh, yes, that would be fine.
The second principle to an ethic of care is that of responsibility. Having been attentive to an individual's needs, you need to take responsibility for acting to meet those needs.
Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down everything that we've discussed today and then send you a copy in the post.
Having a good intention isn't enough. You can intend to do things well, but if you don't do them, then, good care hasn't happened. One aspect of one of those interactions would definitely be, let's just summarise what we've gone through so that we know what we've spoken about and what we've agreed.
It's really nice meeting you, May.
Yes, it's been a nice chat.
Yes, it's been lovely, and thank you so much for the tea. So I'll speak to you in a couple of days then, okay?
Yes, thanks. I'll wait to hear from you.
Our research included people aged between 67 and 97. During that 30-year period, people can undergo huge transformations, but also the world is changing around them. If you think about all the changes that have taken place in the last 30 years in terms of the internet, the use of technology, these sorts of things, it can become quite hard for older people to maintain a sense of themselves having a place in the world. So maintaining well-being can become quite hard work.
Adjusting to change is easier when you're able to work it out for yourself and come to your own solution or your own conclusion, because being told that you can't do something anymore is really difficult.
I think one of the hardest things for a lot of people, and it'll happen to me one of these days, is when you lose the ability or you must no longer drive. How do you get your shopping?
The free bus pass is tremendously valuable.
Yeah.
If you go on a bus, 3/4 of the people at least are elderly.
Yeah.
A lot of people can't carry an enormous amount of shopping,
Yes.
but they can take, little and often.
So that's an adjustment in terms of people's behaviour, isn't it? That,
Yes.
I
Yes,
can't...
you used to go for a big weekly shop,
Yeah,
and now
yeah.
you can't. You go out twice a week and carry fewer things.
Yeah.
There are big adjustments that have to be made. There are changes in family relationships. There are changes in the sense of identity. There's not getting the validation that you would have just taken for granted in the social life that you had, or the work life that you had, or the family relationships that you had. They all can shift and change and sometimes disappear.
Because I always think of the lady who said it's like sitting in the back seat of a car now when the family's around. You're not heard or you're not listened to in the back seat of a car.
One of the things that people spoke about is actually as you get older you can experience a sense of being less visible. People maybe don't interact with you in the same way. So for an older person who has very little opportunity to have a conversation with other people, having that 5-minute chat while they're waiting at the checkout might be, one of the few opportunities in a day that they speak to somebody.
In the interviews, there was lots of evidence of people recognising that they needed to change, they needed to adapt. They had to learn how to be well in different situations. Some of them had to learn how to be well when they were unwell. So they had to learn how to maintain their interest in things that were important to them, perhaps in a different way. One woman, for example, who was a very keen gardener and who was finding gardening increasingly difficult for her because of her physical frailty, had started to grow orchids on her balcony. So she was doing gardening, but in a much more contained way.